This conference will now be recorded.
Wonderful. So you've made it to the last section, and this section is very valuable because most often, more times than not, when we are providing support to someone with Alzheimer's disease or another dementia, we are also there to support their families, and we need to know how to take care of ourselves. A person-centered care approach takes into consideration the needs of all those involved. So it's our client, their family members, as well as yourself, how you are doing as you provide care and as you return to your home, that we are all partners in providing care. And so this module is designed to understand the emotional impact that Alzheimer's disease and other dementias have on family members. An important aspect of providing care that's often overlooked is the role of the relationship between care providers and families. Truth is that every family is different. We all have different family dynamics. And there's a long history with the family that comes along, and we don't know that history. We haven't grown up in that family, so we don't know who always got along, who always maybe had tension between each other. We don't know that mom maybe was always difficult and very demanding, and dad was the cream puff and the fun guy in the house, or vice versa. That dad was the disciplinarian and mom was the one who always had a special treat. We don't know what the dynamics are. We don't know. We certainly will find ourselves in situations where providing care to somebody who may have been abusive towards their children. And now the adult children are doing the best they can to make sure that that parent gets the care they need. But there may be some underlying history there that we might not be privy to, but maybe they're doing the very best they can given the way that they were raised. So it's just important to know that we have to give family members grace as we proceed forward and do the best we can to care for the people that we're caring for. So take a minute to consider, have any of you taking this module now had a family member ever diagnosed with a terminal diagnosis? And as you got that diagnosis, what your emotional reaction was? And did other family members react the same way you did? And what were some of the differences you may have noticed in the way you reacted to the way other people in your family reacted? Were they different? So in this module, we're going to learn to identify two emotions that families often feel, discuss a common family concern, describe two ways to better partner with families, and identify two ways to prevent burnout and compassion fatigue. A diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease can be a very, very challenging diagnosis to receive. And it certainly affects the entire family. I have a long career, 35 years as a physical therapist, about 27 actually working in the field, and much of that was in pediatrics, and I worked with children with severe disabilities. And there was never a time that I was working with a child with a disability that child's capabilities, their strengths and their weaknesses didn't impact the whole family. And this is true when we get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease or another dementia. It has an impact on the whole family. One of the things that we know with Alzheimer's disease is it can be difficult to understand. You've just gone through, you're finishing up 6 hours of training to understand more deeply what this is all about. And because it's not something visible that we can see, like a broken arm in a sling, it can also be difficult to understand that this is a disease process and that the person who has it can't do anything about it. So there's a lot of misconceptions. We still have family members who don't really understand it, who aren't educated about it, even though they may have had that diagnosis for their parent for a couple of years. That these are brain changes that the family member can't understand. And because it can change day to day, and we could suddenly have a good day where we have more resources than we've had seen in a few weeks. I've had adult children say to me, My mother's not been able to do that in 6 months. I can't believe she just answered that question that you just asked her. Because we get those good moments every once in a while, family members can grab onto those and think, okay, mom's better than she acts. So when she's having a bad day, she's doing that deliberately. So there's still a lot of misunderstanding about it. There's still stigma about it. People are embarrassed that their family member has been diagnosed with this. And we do see denial, especially I find from visiting family members who may not be there day-to-day basis. They come and visit for a weekend or a week, and mom or dad tends to dig deep to perform well in front of the person they don't see that much. And it's not until maybe they're there long enough that they'll see some of the struggle, because again, the person with Alzheimer's or another dementia is using every resource that they have. So there can be denial. No, mom is doing fine. She helped me do the dishes. We can sometimes compensate for people without realizing we are. And so that helps us remain in denial. And I see that with some spouses at times. They don't really realize how much they're doing to cover for the person, their loved one. We have grief and loss. And this is a long process of grieving, because this is called the long goodbye. Alzheimer's disease, from the time of diagnosis, the average lifespan is 7 to 10 years, but we've known people who have lived as many as 20 years. So it's a very, very long process. And so this is kind of an ongoing grief process. Through this process, we see that there's changing roles. You know, we see that maybe moms are always thought of as the one who take care of us. We go, they make dinner, they made dessert, they do the family holidays, and now the role's being changed. And I've got to take more care of mom. I've got to do the planning for a family holiday. I am actually helping her get dressed. And so we see changing roles in terms of caregiving. And then loss of control, because when we can't provide all the care that someone needs, we can feel like we have no control over our life and over their life. We also see some guilt and shame. And as caregivers, family caregivers who have been providing care for a while, maybe at one point it's dropping in once a week with groceries, making sure the bills are paid, making sure appointments are attended, to eventually a quick drop in daily, and then a realization that actually, you know, a significant amount of care every single day is needed, or mom's not going to get up and get dressed, not going to take her medicine, not going to eat a good meal. We can feel some guilt over not being able to provide that anymore. Many times our family caregivers have many directions that they're moving in. They may have families of their own that they're trying to help. They may still have jobs they can't lose because they need that income. They may have spouses who want, you know, are having struggle with having less time with their husband or their wife. So they can feel some guilt and shame over having to turn over some of the care. They may feel that they should have been able to do it themselves. I know with my mother, my father used to, for a good year, said, no, I said in sickness and in health, in sickness and in health. It was his mantra, in sickness and in health. And he was getting absolutely exhausted. He was not doing well at all. And it was very hard for him to accept the idea that he needed help caring for his wife, because to him, it was something that he should have committed to do and been able to do. And it took a long time to help him realize that he was still a wonderful husband, even if he couldn't do all of the care anymore. And we can see anger. Anger is a stage of grieving. And again, this is a very long process, and grief goes on, but anger is a stage, and we can see anger get turned on us as a caregiver or as an agency owner. It's very hard to be angry with your loved one if you know they can't control what's going on, but that anger is more I'm angry at this situation. I'm angry I'm losing my mother. And because we can't be angry with our mother, we may turn towards somebody else in our environment to take it out on them, overreact to small things. Can't believe you let my father have cereal for breakfast. That's unheard of. I don't care that he wanted to make it himself. You should have told him no. And from everything you've learned, you know that's not really great person-centered dementia care if somebody wants to remain independent. But that family's anger isn't really about you. It's about everything that they're losing in their parent. So it's important not to take it personally. You won't argue back with them, hey, that's not my problem, or anything like that. You can call us later. You're always going to be polite and respectful, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But remembering in the moment, it very well may not be about you. We see families who have physical and emotional exhaustion. More than 80% of care for individuals with dementia is provided by unpaid family caregivers. So oftentimes when they finally admit they need outside help, they have reached a point of exhaustion. And as I mentioned, family dynamics, and every family has its own history and unique characteristics, and we cannot judge those. We need to help them through difficult times by being good models and being trustworthy. It's very important to remember that trust is built over time. We're not instantly given trust. It's very hard for our family members to leave their family member with us in our care. And so we need to build trust. And how do we do that? They have very common questions. Will we be respectful to their loved one? Will we make sure their loved one is safe? Will we provide the type of care and the quality of care that they want for their loved one, or maybe that they've been providing all along but can't provide anymore? Or maybe their expectation is that we'll be able to do an even better job because this is what we do for a living. And we know that sometimes family members will enter into the relationship with us with a general lack of trust, partly because oftentimes what's shared on the news are the very worst of caregiver situations, the situations where a caregiver abused or neglected or exploited an elder. And those are stories that are easy to find on the news and social media these days. So they may enter into a relationship with us from a point of basic mistrust. And they may have cameras in place or be demanding about how much communication they get. If they've had a prior negative experience, maybe with another agency or another caregiver, then that is also setting a tone for them that we can't do anything about. And sometimes families worry about voicing a grievance or expressing a concern. They might think that it's going to be taken out on their loved ones. We do a very good job of letting them know that it's very important they communicate with us. We can't fix something if it's wrong if we don't know it's wrong, and that we will never take it out on their loved one. So there's a lot that they're overcoming in order to build trust. And there are very good ways to build trust. And I think actually that we're really good at that at 360 SHS. One of those is to have frequent contact. We have the family room. Your general comments are a vital part of building trust with families. As you leave a general comment at the end of your shift and you describe the positive moments that you had with that family member, we had a wonderful visit. We had a great dinner of meatloaf, mashed potatoes, broccoli, and some water, and he took his medicine. And as we cleaned up together, we laughed about the ride we took and some of the things we saw at the farm stand. That's just an example. We talked about the Red Sox game and what the score was, and we hoped the Red Sox were going to win the World Series this year. Those examples are not only heartwarming, but they're building trust. They're saying to the family, this caregiver cares about my parent. I love the job he's doing or she's doing with my parent. So frequent contact, and we do calls from the office to the families to check in, but your general comments are a vital part of this. And again, if you see the family coming and going, you can also share, oh, I love to be with your mom or your dad. We had a great time. And even if you're going to repeat it in the general comment, because there may be family members that aren't present, they may live in other areas of the country, but they are listening also, and they have an influence over the care that's being provided in the home. So it's a vital part of building trust, frequent contact. Our influence. Families want staff to show genuine concern for them and their loved ones. So saying, Mom looks beautiful today, how are you doing? Those simple words can make all the difference in the world. If we call you to update you, hey, I had a call from the daughter and she's hoping that today you can take dad to the library. When you enter and the daughter's on her way out to work, saying something of, the office called me, I know you want us to go to the library, we're gonna make a point of that today. Builds trust. It shows that they have influence, that you hear them, and that you're going to follow through. And then providing empathy and concern. Again, asking them, how are you doing? If they say, I'm so frustrated because I can't find my mother's sneakers, or I can't find his hearing aids, and maybe they seem like they're attacking you for it, saying something like, oh, I'm sorry the hearing aids are missing. I may have some time to look for them today. Let me help you. Or I will try to make time today to look for what's missing so that we can do our best to help out. So again, showing empathy and concern. Providing reassurance is very important. Letting them know you're here for them and you're going to hear what they have to say, you care about them, and you're going to follow through. And then providing engagement and support. So if you're caring for someone who enjoys reminiscing about their family, maybe leaving out a favorite family album, offering social events, but offering that engagement and support. And sometimes I've had adult children say to us, oh my goodness, the caregiver shared a story in the general comment that my mother never told me about. My mother never told me about that time on her grandmother's farm when she was a little girl. I can't believe I'm getting to hear some new stories. So as you engage in this person-centered approach, you may be learning some things about the person you're working with that even some members of the family either don't recall anymore or never knew. So very important. What else can we do? Providing those regular updates. The general comments is one way that we do that. Calling our office to give us some additional updates is very important. It might be something that you might not have thought to leave in the general comment, or maybe you didn't feel was appropriate to leave in the general comment. But as we gather information, when we're doing those check-in calls with the family, we can say, I had a great call with Mike. He is loving his time with your dad, and in particular when they play cribbage, and your dad is still beating him at times. Those little touches can make a big difference. So providing regular updates. Involving the family. So we want, it's important to us that we are providing information to our families. We ask on your end that it be positive and supportive. If you have additional concerns, if you would call us and we will involve the family in that. We do ask that you don't call the family on your own because we really need to be in charge of the information that's disseminated, primarily so that all of the members involved, all of the caregivers will be up to date so that we can all follow through in the way that's most appropriate. So it's very important to us that we manage that information. So calling our office. Offering support, so making certain that your education is up to date. You've done a great job. This is, again, the last segment of this training. You've done a great job educating yourself. So offering support. So if a family member is saying to you, oh, it's so frustrating when dad starts pacing, being able to say, you know what I found through my training, when someone starts pacing, we might want to offer a meaningful activity. I've found with your dad, if he begins to pace, it's a great opportunity for us to go. He's telling me he needs to get out of the house and he really calms down when I take him for a drive, or we walk around the block. Or typically I've found when he starts to pace that he needs to use the bathroom. You might want to just go down the hall and turn on the light to the bathroom at that time. So offering those kinds of tips for support. Also knowing that the Alzheimer's Association has a helpline, a 24/7 helpline. And we have that phone number at the ready for any of our families. So saying, you know, the helpline is there for you anytime, night or day, to your family member could be also important, or just asking them to call our office and we will give them the support needed. We want to be consistent. So we want to make sure we show up on time, that we're consistent in our approach to care, and that what we say we're going to do, we always do. And to show that we're part of a capable team. And again, that means communicating with the office so that we can support you, we can support all the caregivers, and we can support our client and their family. If families remain or are upset or angry and you're feeling attacked, and this can happen, it's important that you remain calm and professional. You may have an instinct to try to defend yourself, and it's very important that you remain calm and professional. You might say, I'm sorry that that this is happening. I'm sorry that he wasn't dressed. Let me see what I can do to make it better the next time. And so by using those words, I'm sorry, doesn't necessarily mean that you're saying this is all my fault. It means that you're acknowledging they're upset. And it's okay for a family member to be upset. Again, it does not always mean blame, that it's always your fault, but to say, I'm sorry, let me see what I can do to get her dressed earlier in the day. Let me call Judy and see if she has any tips. Let me see what other caregivers are doing to see how they're getting that accomplished. It always helps, and it doesn't mean it's your fault. We don't want to blame the person living with dementia. It's never fair to say, well, your mother always hides things, or your mother always refuses, because again, it's not the person with dementia's fault. So we do not want to blame them, okay? Remember, if you can't answer a question, let them know and connect them to us, or let them know you're going to call us. I don't really know how I can get your mother bathed. She's, I'm trying my best, and I'm not getting that done. Let me see if anybody in the office might give us some help. We have an excellent mentor program, and it could be that either myself, Kristen, Karen, anybody in the mentor program could come out and help support. And I will say there are times where even those of us who have had years and years of experience cannot accomplish certain tasks without it resulting in a negative behavior or a risky behavior. So sometimes this has nothing to do with knowing more or being more skilled. It just has to do with the process of the progression of the disease. We don't want to blame the person living with dementia. You could say, again, I'm sorry I wasn't able to give your mother the shower today. This phase of Alzheimer's can be really challenging. This phase of dementia can be really challenging, but I'm going to do what I can to get to the other side of it. I really care about your mother. I really care about you. Let me see if I can get some extra help from the office, okay? It's always important to keep us engaged so that we know what's going on and we know how we can support you. Let's talk a little bit about burnout and compassion fatigue, because they are a little bit different. Burnout tends to develop over time. There's emotional and physical exhaustion, and there's feelings of negativity and indifference, and feeling like you're not getting the job done. So oftentimes it's like, yeah, whatever, I can't do this anymore. Where compassion fatigue generally comes on quite suddenly, and we can have somebody feeling helpless, and it's easily caused by empathy and a result of providing continuous care to individuals who are experiencing serious illness. So oftentimes people with compassion fatigue will feel a lack or a loss of meaning and of hope in their life. And it very well, if it's not managed, can result in negative effect to someone's health and well-being. So it's very important that we know if somebody is feeling emotional exhaustion, and we see burnout with some of our family caregivers who appear to not care anymore. That again, that sense of indifference. They don't care if mom's bathing or not. They don't care that mom's wearing the same clothes anymore. They don't care that the house is unsafe. This could be burnout, that they've just been absolutely exhausted emotionally and physically. They have nothing left, as opposed to compassion fatigue, which comes on very, very quickly. And in those family members, we can see a loss of meaning or hope in their life. Why would this occur? Well, there are many stresses with Alzheimer's disease. One is that people recognize the disease gets worse and it's terminal. Families are grieving and they can be upset or angry. And it's difficult to provide care when the person doesn't realize they need assistance. We see this so often in the middle stages. I don't know what you're talking about. I showered yesterday. I don't know what you're talking about. I drove to my job yesterday. I don't need her here to help me drive anywhere. So this lack of insight on the part of the person with the diagnosis is very, very stressful for the person who's trying to provide care, because that family member may be trying to talk their mom or their dad or their family member into the idea that they need help. Mom, come on, you know that you need help. You have that diagnosis. What are you talking about? I don't have that. So that can create stress. And then they have stress of their own related to their job, their family life, and their own health. And sometimes our family caregivers, we forget that they are people who have their own health concerns. And they may be going through something that has interrupted their ability to provide care to their family member, creates their own stress. And if we don't find a way to handle stress, it can cause us to experience physical symptoms and illness, express our frustration or anger to individuals we're caring for or their family members, and to feel exhausted, anxious, or to become depressed ourselves. So how do you take care of yourself? It's important that you ask for help from your supervisor or your coworker, that you help others. If you help somebody on the team, they're more likely to help you. That we seek out education. Again, there's always education. We can provide more education here. There's education on the Alzheimer's website. They have a wonderful website where you can get even further education. There's community-based programs. It's important that you find a way to take care of yourself. Take a deep breath. In our mentor program, we do a mindfulness exercise, and so that you take some time and a moment, especially during stressful times during a shift, that you take a few minutes to count to 10, take a deep breath before you react. Take a time for important people in your life and understand what are the important things to you in your life where you find comfort, and take time for those. Is it a walk? Is it a hike? Is it taking a hot bath? Is it reading a good book? Make sure that you understand you are providing care in situations that can be stressful, and it's extra important that you take care of yourself. So in this class, we've learned ways to respond to a person living with dementia that are very different from how we might respond to someone living without the disease. And that's because the person living with the disease may not have the insight to understand they have the disease anymore. And so we have to change our approach to care as opposed to expecting them to change their approach to life. It's very, very important. We have to remember the number one goal is to promote a positive experience in the life of the person, or a positive emotion for the person living with Alzheimer's disease or another dementia. And we gave you many, many strategies to do that. We talked about preventing burnout and compassion fatigue by taking time for yourself. We talked about the many ways that Alzheimer's disease affects the family. How there are common family concerns that have to do with lack of trust, prior negative experience, and their own worry about voicing a concern and how that might be taken out on their loved one. We talked about ways that we build trust with families, and that includes frequent contact, your general comments. How we influence the situation by remaining calm and showing empathy and concern, reassuring that we're there to help, and engaging and supporting. And what we can do by providing updates, involving the family, we ask that you call our office so that we can manage that we offer support, that we're always consistent in our care, that they come to know that we are the person who's going to show up on time, that we are not going to treat the goals that they have set out as kind of haphazard, but we are consistently providing care, and that we're part of a capable team. If someone's upset or angry with us, that we're going to remain calm and professional. We're going to acknowledge their concerns, maybe saying, I'm sorry, understanding it doesn't mean that that was our fault, but that it just lets them know it's not the way we wanted things either. But the day is not perfect. I'm so sorry, this wasn't our best day. We're going to, work on finding that item that's lost. We're not going to blame the person with dementia. Your mother's always hiding things. Instead, oh, I understand that it's really not uncommon in this phase, but I'm going to work on looking for that. Remember, if you can't answer a question, let them know that you'll connect with them with somebody who can answer it. And recognize that there is burnout and compassion fatigue, and that there are many stresses related to Alzheimer's or another dementia diagnosis. And that it's important we take care of ourselves. So you're going to take a quiz, and before you do that, I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this training. It's very, very important. More and more, you are going to find yourself working with people who have some form of cognitive impairment, whether it's Alzheimer's disease or another dementia. I want you to know that we're always here for you. There's additional training. I'm an Alzheimer's Association family support volunteer. I do community-based trainings. I've done this web-based training, and I do an additional on-site training. And so it's very important for you to know that we really appreciate all the work that you are doing for our clients and with our agency, 360 SHS. We're so grateful for you every day and the work that you do and the commitment that you have to making every client and their family's life better, improving the quality of life through a person-centered approach to care. Thank you so much.